What's up? What's up, everybody? It's Friday night from the forum, and we got a crew in the house, and I mean a crew. 6 people in the show tonight. We are live here in the studio and live on Talking West Tennessee. So welcome if you're new to the show. Man, Joe, looking awful dapper this evening. I think he froze. As I said, he looked dapper. Anyways, man, the draft definitely threw some wrenches in everybody's game. I've heard everything from I've been telling you for months to sell Najee to, Anthony Richardson still has a shot. I don't know what to
Happy
believe.
Kentucky Derby Eve. Shout out to all my horse bettors out there.
Oh my goodness. So Aaron, what's your thoughts? I mean, obviously, there was some huge draft picks that happened. Some players that I know that we had a lot of stock. I mean, I've seen a lot of hate on Kyron Williams possibly for this year. What's like probably the thing from the draft that just sticks out in your head the most?
Honestly, the fact that it looks like Chase Brown survived. He was not one of the people I had coming through this. I didn't have Najee on my list of sell before the draft, but Chase Brown was the top on the sell high list, and he somehow came through it. And I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I actually there was a trade that went down in our league where Chase Brown and Jerry Jeudy went for Brian Thomas Jr. And the guy that traded for Chase Brown was like, I really like Chase Brown. Chase Brown's going to be the dude. He's, they're not going to draft anybody. And he was like firm on it, right? And everybody in the chat is like, you're an idiot. You just traded BTJ for Chase Brown and Jerry, and so it was like as soon as the Bengals didn't take anybody of significance, then he comes in the chat and he's just like, I told all you guys, get off my back. I know what I'm doing, but I agree. Chase Brown, huge surprise on that one. Brian, what about you? What was the big, like if there was a moment where you felt yourself surprised, what was it?
I mean, it's kind of chalk here, but not only did Shedeur fall to the 5th, but he was the 2nd quarterback taken by the Browns. Like, I mean, if they want to take him in the 5th, that's fine, but taking Gabriel above him, come on.
There's been so much talk on that, and obviously, everybody's got an opinion. Chase, what's your thoughts on the Shedeur thing? Why do you think he fell so far? Not to put you in the way of a trap question or anything like that.
Well, no, we heard all the week leading up to the draft. It started coming out that his interviews had been bad with teams, had been rough. There was one team supposedly where he was interviewing with the head coach across the table from him at the time. He got a FaceTime call, not only took the call, but stayed on the call, making the head coach wait for him. Those kinds of things. But then when you look at his skill set, you look at his overall profile. He was very accurate in college. He was good at what they did in Colorado, but they weren't necessarily asking him to make pro-type reads. He's not anything special as an athlete. He's definitely not his father as an athlete. He didn't profile as a guy that should have seen himself and that no one else saw in the league as a top 5 or even a first round or first day or 2 player. But I think it was the combination of all of that and the way that his entourage, his handlers, just everything the way they handled themselves leading up to the draft. And then, to address the idea that Cleveland took him finally, but took him 2nd after Gabriel, they apparently had become really enamored with Dylan Gabriel. I'm not sure how or why, but they really liked what they saw from him in their meetings leading up to the draft and everything that they talked about with him. And that might be all well and good, but I mean, you're talking about a guy that's been in college since I was, and I don't necessarily know that he's the answer at quarterback either. So now you've got an entire stable's worth of options at quarterback, but none of them is necessarily going to fix your quarterback problem. The Shedeur thing was a ride. It was a roller coaster at the draft. When Harmon went the media room, there was an audible gasp and buzz that rippled through the entire media room at the draft that day when Harmon went to Pittsburgh instead of Shedeur. And then I think we kind of all looked at each other and thought, oh, it might be on. And sure enough, it was. 2 days later, we finally got a pick for him.
Did you see Shadeur's live draft stream, though? That didn't help his cause. He's got Dion standing next to him going, oh, man, this team, they have a crappy quarterback. He's been in, like Joe Flacco. He's been playing since I was in the NFL. He's trash-talking every quarterback as they're on the clock. And then the other thing I was hearing is that GMs and coaches are hesitant, not necessarily because of him, but because if they draft him and they fail in year one, they're worried that the same thing's going to happen everywhere. That happens everywhere else. They're going to want the coach fired and replaced with Dion to get the situation. So they're worried, if I bring this guy in, am I going to, lead to my own firing in a year from now when Shedeur bombs. So I don't think that helped either.
Well, the Steelers did not care, whenever it was like the draft day thing, and they're like, you can get your guy and you can get him late, you can save all your cap money, and Pittsburgh was like, we're good. We don't really care.
If you look at what the Steelers are doing, though, they're gearing up for 2026, and I think a lot of teams are. They have 10 picks going into next year. They have nobody with real long-term commitment. So I think that you see like Cleveland, they drafted some guys to throw darts, but they have a lot of capital to move up in 2026. They could have taken Travis Hunter and traded back. There's 5 or 6 other teams, the Jets, the Giants, I guess now are out of that picture. But for the most part, it's everybody knows what's coming from the quarterback room. Yeah, they threw some darts, but I think if they didn't take Harmon, I think Golden would have been their pick if he wasn't available. He was the only other first-round grade that they had was a wide receiver, and he went 2 picks later.
Yeah, like it. So, Joe, let me ask you. I mean, I've got you up there. Who took the biggest hit in your eyes? Like a player that you, maybe even somebody that you've been talking about for the last few weeks that you've been excited about, and they just got hit right in the kneecaps.
Yeah, so I think the one that surprised me that not a lot of people are talking about is Josh Allen. He's been Mr. Consistent as far as fantasy football goes as being like a top quarterback for the last 4 or 5 years. But if you look, Coleman didn't really impress me last year. They signed Shakir to this extension. Cook didn't go anywhere, which I guess is a win for him, but we didn't really see any additions to the wide receiver room that I would have expected.
Joe, I will not stand for the slander against Elijah Moore here. He is now on the team. He is there to establish as the wide receiver 1. If this guy can tout Treylon Burks, I can tout Elijah Moore. Let's go.
But that was this week. That was this week. That wasn't the draft. So that surprised me a lot. I thought they would have taken one of these guys.
We got Albert in the chat. What's up, fellas? Thanks for tuning in, Albert. Go Yachty. That's what I'm going to call you on the stream here. For you, was like, as far as like the rookies go, excited landing spot. I don't know where you're at in your dynasty drafts or anything like that, but who were you most excited about where they went?
Well, honestly, I think the biggest surprise of the draft was the Jags trading up for Travis Hunter. I wasn't really expecting that, and to get a second option with BTJ for Trevor Lawrence to throw to, now with Liam Cohen coming in, honestly, that has me pretty excited. He mentioned, he's going to start learning the offense, kind of mix in defense. So that makes me pretty confident. I mean, I thought he was the top wide receiver coming into the draft, and if he's used that way, especially in a good offense with, an at least once talented QB, I still believe in Trevor Lawrence. Some don't. But I think that was the biggest surprise, and that I'm most excited about Travis Hunter.
I like that idea too, because I like that he's going to a place where Hunter he'll be the number 2 option. He's not going to have to be the number 1. BTJ rules that roost, I think, there, and I think he should. If he goes to Cleveland, now there's question: is Hunter supposed to be the number 1, or are they going to try to use him as a number 1? Is Judy the number 1 still? Some other teams, but I like that he went to a team where he can be the number 2 option, because I think that'll really allow him to thrive there. So, yeah, Jacksonville was a weird landing spot. He wasn't expecting it either. But I like the fact that he can play second fiddle in a way to Brian Thomas Jr. and complement him and doesn't have to try to carry the load himself.
Yeah, it's the way we think Sorry, man. Sorry. The same way we think of like T. Higgins or Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
You know, that number 2 draft capital, he's coming in with that expectation, and it sounds like they're willing to give him that role.
Yeah, what I was going to say, so there's 130 vacated targets. You lost Christian Kirk. You lost Evan Ingram. So I don't think this really impacts BTJ. I think it helps giving another option there. So this offense, a lot of people are talking about Drake May having that like leap coming into the year, being a value pick. Like you said, Trevor Lawrence could really be a sneaky play. He does have that rushing upside there that he hasn't really used in the last couple of years, but hey, we could see it happen.
Well, the thing that really separate, or I guess the difference maker for me is Travis Hunter and BTJ are very different receivers. Like BTJ is very much so a deep threat, like a burner, like I'm going to get open, find space, and Travis Hunter is really, in my opinion, the first receiver Trevor Lawrence has had that is like a superior catch in traffic or like go up and get it type receiver, somebody that you can, throw your corner route to, or somebody that you can put your 50-50 ball up. And so I think that that's going to be a game changer for him. And I think that is such a big thing for him as a receiver because, playing corner, you naturally get trained to high point the football, right? And you saw in so much of his tape him going up in double coverage, in triple coverage, and high pointing the football and making that catch over the top of defenders. And so seeing that as part of his game makes me pretty excited for, a Trevor Lawrence who hasn't had that, right? Like he's throwing to Christian Kirk. He's throwing to Calvin Ridley off suspension, like BTJ is the first like really electric guy that he had. And now he gets another compliment on the other side. The only thing is he lost Evan Ingram, but we're going to see. And Aaron, I know you've talked about Brenton Strange, if he can pick it up or not. But no, definitely excited about that. So Aaron, I'm going to, for you, who was your biggest faller? Like had value, maybe you hold them on your roster and you're hoping that they're going to pan out. You're hoping that they're not going to pick, kind of like the Chase Brown situation. And then the team does the inevitable. They do something you didn't want to do. And now you're left with somebody that you can't even get a 4th rounder for.
Putting me on the spot here. I don't know. I didn't have that many veterans. Yeah, I know Jaylen Warren. That one is probably the biggest one. He's not off my roster completely, but Caleb Johnson, I really like that. And that was actually going to be my answer on the last question for landing spot. That helped out. For my first tier of running backs, I had the 3 talent guys in, what was it? Genty, Hampton, Trey Henderson. But the next group of guys there, the rookie running backs, they really benefited from nice spots. Judkins to Cleveland, Caleb Johnson to Pittsburgh, RJ Harvey to Denver. Those are the guys I like the most. And so, like I said, Caleb Johnson moving way up in my rankings. I was really impressed with him. He goes to Pittsburgh. That killed Jaylen Warren for me.
Well, I'm sure that Joe, being a Pittsburgh, our Dapper Dan man in the show tonight, being a Pittsburgh fan, can second that Caleb Johnson is essentially what the Steelers wanted in Najee. Like the Steelers want a pin your ears back, run hard through the hole running back. They don't want all the dancing. They don't want all the, shifty around. They got that they want somebody that can run downhill, and that's Caleb Johnson. They drafted Najee to be that, but for some reason Najee thinks he has good lateral movement, which he doesn't, so them getting that in Caleb Johnson, I think, facilitates what they wanted in that RB1 role. I love Caleb Johnson's landing spot. I think that we can see year 1 impact. Joe, as the Pittsburgh fan, how do you feel?
Yeah, it's a great fit for the Arthur Smith offense. He runs a zone running scheme, which Najee was not suited for. It's not something he really did at Alabama. So even though he did run for 1,000 yards, that was more a testament to his ability to stay on the field more so than his aptitude in that offense. I think he's getting a bad rap as like not being a good running back. I think you're going to see him be a lot more effective with the Chargers, but with them drafting Hampton, that's probably going to hurt that stock. But on the subject of Caleb Johnson, like was already talked about, he's a good fit for the scheme. Jaylen Warren, he has only had like at most like 160 to 180 touches in a year. So he's not going to become this bell cow back all of a sudden, especially last year, given the fact that he has been banged up. So they're going to want to keep it fresh. The Steelers are going to run the ball, looking at their quarterback room of Mason Rudolph, Will the Thrill Howard from Ohio State, and then you got Skylar Thompson. They're not looking to throw. So the carries are going to be there. I think what you'll see, Tomlin tends to bring them slower along. So Jalen will probably get the starts. They'll work in the rookie there. But I think over the season and obviously like as we get into future years, Caleb Johnson, I think he's going to be a superstar in this league, especially as that team continues to develop. They've been spending the last few years in O-line as well. So that's just another trending up benefit. They didn't even have their first round offensive lineman from last season.
Tyler, you want a wide receiver too? And he dropped so far in my rankings, I completely forgot he even existed. Also named Jalen McMillan. Ibuka, that just kills it. I was so all in. Oh, he's the guy of the future. Yeah, he might be dead. I think he's like in the 200s in my rankings. He might not be that low. But.
I don't think he's completely dead. I do think that he's definitely probably dead for this season. You know, I think Mike Evans' contract finishes up next season, which could make a little bit of a shift for him. But, you know, and this kind of, we'll come back to running backs a little bit because there's a lot there. But I wanted to go over to our rookie radar, you know, and talk a little bit about somebody that I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks that you just mentioned, Joe. And I even said the past 2 weeks, both shows, I said Will Howard to the Steelers is going to happen. They're going to take him late. He's got that prototype Terry Bradshaw, Big Ben, you know, style to his game. And, you know, obviously the combine hurt his, you know, like he didn't have the accuracy that they wanted to see and all these things.
Like Terry Bradshaw at the
Dude, it was so
very
bad.
Kind. No, that was very kind of you.
I was there at the combine.
Looked like Terry Bradshaw, but
years 0 through 4 for Terry before he got good all of a sudden.
No, I mean Terry Bradshaw now. He looks like Terry Bradshaw now.
But look,
70-year-old Terry Bradshaw.
Here's the deal, okay? Here's the thing. He's good, like he's good here. Like when you talk about these quarterbacks being able to process reads and get the ball out, I think that's one thing of his game that he does have. Accuracy, development, like those things can happen. They can come. And Chase, I see you churning your seat a little bit over there. But I think deeps, if you're in Superflex, I got Will Howard in like the end of the third round in a Superflex league. And he was still sitting there. I'm like, I feel like I got to take him. Just on the upshot, like if somehow the Steelers don't align, which often happens with Aaron Rodgers, right? Or he decides to be finicky and Mike Tomlin says, I'm done. And they say, okay, it's going to be Rudolph or Howard. I think Howard's going to take that job. And I think Howard can actually do good with that job. But that's just my opinion. Brian, I know you were piping up there. I'm happy to hear what you have to say on it.
I was just going to say, like, being there at the combine and, like, I felt bad for Will Howard toward the end of that like exercise because all the Ohio State fans were so loud, like rooting him on there at the beginning. After a few ducks that he threw, dude, the fans were relentless. He got booed from the time he pulled back to throw the ball until the next guy went up. Like the crowd there in Indy were not letting up on him, and it seemed like it affected him a little bit because he didn't get better as the day went on. So there's definitely question marks. There's so many of those quarterbacks that went late that they've got question marks, but sometimes it's just opportunity is all it takes.
He went to Ohio State. He should be used to getting booed.
So, okay. You know, Chase, let us know for you, who's like, I want to dive in. Like everybody knows that we've got players that are going to have instant year one impact. Like Ashton Genty is going to have year one impact. Jaden Higgins is going to have year one impact. You know, like we have those automatic. Tyler Warren is going to have year one impact. Like we're going to have those automatic like guarantees. But if you're like in your rookie drafts, or even if you're just a fan and you're like wondering, okay, my team drafted this person, what can I look to see? You know, who is like, I would say maybe go third round or beyond, you know, outside of our, who's like one of those deep people that you think could really have a impact or an emergence year one. And I say that because, like, for example, for me, in the Kings Classic last year. I drafted in the Kings Classic. I won. You can see the belt there behind me.
No big deal.
No big deal, but it's not about that. It's the strategy. So I went heavy on running back. I grabbed a strong tight end. I had me a good quarterback. Well, I say that. Remember, I was drafting at the Expo, and Lamar, that was the one where I was like, Lamar's still here in like the 6th round, and I took Lamar in the 6th. But receivers, I waited till late, and I grabbed Ladd. I grabbed BTJ. I had Mike Evans. Like I just grabbed some rookies that I thought could have year one significant relevance that didn't cost me an arm and a leg. And by the end of the season, when the playoffs, when it all mattered, they're all putting up 20 points a game. And I'm like, cashing in, baby. So like there's always those late round players and like a place where rookies, especially because we don't know, can have significant impact for your rosters. So, who is that guy for you? Like if there's one that you can grab and tell our audience about.
Well, there's one that I don't think maybe a lot of people are paying a whole lot of attention to that you could probably get in the 3rd round or you might be able to get in the 3rd round depending on the format of your league. But Mason Taylor at tight end in New York, I think is one that a lot of people aren't necessarily talking about. Like you said, we're all thinking about Genty. We're all thinking about Hampton. We're all thinking about Jaden Higgins. And I agree, all those guys are going to be relevant this year. Judkins in Cleveland, but Mason Taylor at tight end in New York. Listen, he's fighting with Jeremy Ruckert, who has never seen more than 28 targets in a season and has not really done anything since he's been drafted, and Stone Smart with 2 T's. And I just call me, crazy, but I'm not worried about the idea of Mason Taylor beating out Stone Smart and Jeremy Ruckert. So he's got a clear path to playing time right away as a starter in that offense. But then you take a look back, Cole Kmet was the tight end 8 in back-to-back seasons, 2022 and 2023 in Chicago, with Justin Fields as the quarterback, including getting 90 targets the one year. Justin Fields will look for his tight end in New York. And the way that he plays, the playing style, the scrambling that Fields does when he's on the run and he's looking for a receiver, I think that's the kind of thing that Mason Taylor can do. Mason Taylor can play all 3 downs. He's not somebody they're going to be taking off the field all the time. I think he can be on the field all the time. And I think that he's got a real opportunity to be one of Justin Fields' favorite targets right away. And if that happens, he could surprise people and he could show up and end up as, it's within the realm of outcomes for him to be that second tier or second half of the top 12 in tight end there. So Mason Taylor is somebody that I'm actually keeping my eye on a lot here, especially if if it gets to that 3rd round and it's kind of thin elsewhere. Yeah. Mason Taylor in New York.
Cole Kmet was one of those, and BHS Cardinal put it in there. You mentioned him obviously in a reference, but that it was a sad day for Cole Kmet. Like I couldn't believe the Colson Loveland pick that early. When you have a good tight end there, and really a complete tight end, like Cole Kmet can play all aspects of the position. So that was a surprise for me. We went wild on the freaking draft show when that pick happened. Like, what the heck? But rest in peace, Cole Kmet. Goyati, I know you had one deep sleeper you wanted to share, and somebody that actually went undrafted. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Xavier Restrepo went to the Titans. He is immediately joining an offense where I think he could elevate to the second receiver there opposite of Calvin Ridley. So, I don't really see any other competition there. In best ball, I think it's a great value getting him, 19th, 20th round. So in Dynasty, I would have to imagine that he's probably a similar, just always available type of guy. I think that's a guy, if I had to choose a situation to fall into for someone who didn't have the best combine performance, slower 40. I saw a lot of drops when he was running through the gauntlet. I think, maybe he just underplayed his hand in Indianapolis and could potentially improve his stock in Tennessee.
And he's playing with his college quarterback too. I mean, Cam Ward will be the quarterback there, and Cam Ward actually mentioned him in his post-game or his post-draft press conference. He said, "Don't sleep on Xavier Restrepo," and this was before we knew he was actually going to sign with Tennessee. He said, "Don't let the 40-time fool you. Xavier Restrepo is one of the best route runners, is the best route runner, as he called him, in the draft this year." Yeah, I think Restrepo coming out of the slot for them. Yeah, I like that idea too. I think he could have a good year.
To be fair, Ward also said Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard were two of the best running backs in the league. So
Yeah,
you got to do a grain of salt there.
Didn't he say Traylon Burks the top 4 receiver too?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Look, you pipe down in your Dapper Dan outfit down there, okay?
I didn't say no shade. I said what was said.
Look, we all have it, and I've got some Arkansas bias in this. That's okay. I'm a Razorbacks fan. You see the helmet, and apparently, I'm not the only one, but I'll get to that a little bit later. But Aaron, you had a couple sleepers for us. Hit us with your guys, your deep sleepers for this year.
Actually, I had one at every position, but Chase took my tight end. I had Mason Taylor there for pretty much the same reasons, but I'll just breeze through them quick. For quarterback, I had Tyler Shuck, New Orleans, because there's absolutely no chance Derek Carr makes it through more than half this season. Injury, crappy play, no chance. So I'm in on him. I got him earlier in, I believe, the 312, end of the third round in a rookie draft. Running back, I got Jordan James in San Francisco because Christian McCaffrey has only played more than 7 games twice in the last 5 years. And my wide receiver, I've got Torrey Horton, Seattle, because he's a big outside X-type receiver, and they seem to be just collecting slot receivers. So I like his upside there.
I don't hate any of those calls, really. I think that, and I agree they are deep. By the way, if you're watched into the show, and like if you're tuned in on the radio, or if you're watching live on Talkin' West Tennessee, if you hop over to our YouTube channel, Fantasy Football Advice Network, you can drop your questions in the chat. We're happy to get to your questions too, if you have any. Again, Fantasy Football Advice Network YouTube channel. Hop over and we can get to some of your questions too, if you have those. So sleeper for me, and again, I'm gonna throw out a little Arkansas bias, so I don't know how much you buy that, but the Lions traded up almost a full round to go up and get really early what I thought go up and get Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. Now, everybody after the draft was like, okay, who's that? Had a top 11 in the history RAS score of all wide receivers to ever be scored. Top 11. Then, and I actually was surprised. I was going through our rookie guide, which will be dropping next week. So I'm going through the rookie guide, and I'm looking, and I hit his profile, and I'm like, he had
too many drops, right? Yeah, too many drops.
0% drop rate. 0% drop rate for a wide receiver in 2 seasons. And it's like, so obviously now I will say this, the Lions are biased on Arkansas players. They got Frank Ragnow at center. They got Dan Skipper as 6th man. Like, they like to go get Razorback players. I don't know why, especially on the offensive line. But they obviously saw something enough to pay multiple picks, future picks even, to go up and get him. And this goes to the question, and I'll ask you, Brian. This is one of those instances where you say, does draft capital matter? Like, when you make that kind of move, no matter what our opinion is of a player, like y'all are like, oh, he only had like 600 yards receiving. Like, it wasn't that great of a career. So what, he is 6'4" and ran a 440. Like, that doesn't really matter. Like, people don't really know him. They're out on him, right? So is the draft capital sometimes enough for us to go, despite maybe I should look at this person, or is it worth even consideration in the conversation?
I feel like it has to be, like, despite our pre-draft analysis and how we look at these players, end of the day, the NFL has so much more access to these players, to data that we, most of us can't even have access to. So I feel like it's just kind of dumb to ignore that stuff because, it's easy to double count things and look at like, all right, here's his combine stuff and like that. That's all rolled into draft capital. Draft capitals tells you how much they think about, their college production, them as a person, them in their combine stuff. So I feel like you have to, especially when this guy's 6'4", 214. I love me a big wide receiver. The fact that the NFL is moving away from these giant lurking beasts and get so many of these quick guys so they can get the ball out quick, it hurts my heart a little bit. I loved the 2000s.
As somebody that's like 7'4".
To yourself, yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe I'm a little biased being up there with them in height as well. But this kid's coming out of school getting a 5.22 receiving yards per team pass attempt. Anything over 3 is amazing. So the fact that he is up that high and going in the second round to the Lions, I mean, you got to dabble into it a little bit. And the fact that you're getting him, I'm seeing him on the waiver wires after some of my rookie draft. The 3-round rookie drafts. You're getting him in the 3rd round. Took him in the second one of my leagues just because I got antsy and I had to pull the trigger. That's just what was sitting there. But I'm buying into it completely.
Awesome. Well, we got Matthiasen popping in the chat. He said, Tyler, on Isaac Tesla, are you worried the idiots on the Lions defense will injure him during training camp?
No, CJ Gardner-Johnson's gone.
I'm actually, and I would say this, I'm not worried about it because Tesla through college was not afraid to take on contact. Like we've seen him take on contact. We've seen him handle contact. He didn't miss time. He knows how to go into contact. If it happens, sure, but I'm not worried about him getting hurt.
6'3", 214.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, you're not really worried about it. Like I literally watched him. I forget. I think it was the LSU game, and he caught that pass and then proceeded to run over 2 defensive backs at the same time to get a few more extra yards. Like I'm not worried about it. I think that he is somebody, right? Like I just did a dynasty draft, and he went in the 4th round. Like Biggs was just talking about before the show, he's available at the 4-1. Somebody that went pick 70 overall, that a team traded up almost a full round to get, goes in the 4th round of your, and it's because people don't know. So right now, why people don't know, sure, grab them because realistically, I mean, you look at the Lions wide receiver group, you got Amon-Ra, you got Jameson, and then what? Laporta, of course, you got Gibbs in the back, but then you got Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is your 3rd receiver, and so. And they like playing Amon-Ra in that kind of move around role. They don't necessarily put him on the outside all the time. So I think that, Tesla, and especially Tesla's catch radius is beast. I don't know if you've seen the film, but like if the ball comes near him, like he's not good at getting, like when he gets off the line, his release and getting out of, getting space early. But man, if you get it anywhere near him, he's going to catch it.
Are you worried at all about having to?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if you're worried at all about having to recharge the batteries on him. I have heard that's kind of an issue with him.
Oh, you can always count on Brian for a good joke. Tesla, not Tesla, but it's okay. It's easy. I know you're like 6'8", and so listening to the conversations way up there, you miss things sometimes.
Yeah.
Joe, who's your top sleeper in this class, or somebody you think that has year 1 impact?
I think somebody that stands out to me is Kyle Williams. He got drafted to the New England Patriots. We know that they signed Stephon Diggs. We think it's going to be a good year 2 offense for Drake May. He was really dominant in college. I really like the fit for him there, and I think he can have a day 1 impact because there's not really a lot of competition in New England. And if they're going to be not as good as people think, or they think they're in a tough division, well, guess what they're going to be doing? Throwing the ball a lot. So I think all signs point to him being able to do well. He's currently ranked on Keep Trade Cut, which isn't like the end-all be-all, but I just like to pull it just to see how the information is. He's currently picked 29 in rookie drafts. So you can get him at the end of the 3rd, and I think that's a really good value for him.
So speaking of Patriots, and we'll kind of shift. I know we've been talking a lot about rookies, but rookies obviously impact veterans. And I'm interested to hear some of the takes on maybe some of the veterans that could still pop off in a significant way that maybe, later values. And, speaking of Vrabel, who did Vrabel things and instantly, invested in the offensive line, took the top offensive tackle in the draft. He's going to protect Drake May. They want to throw the ball. They don't have a lot of weapons. They obviously got Kyle Williams coming in, Stephon Diggs. But let me ask you this, and I don't know if anybody's on the same page. Does Hunter Henry have another year of top production if Drake May has time to throw the ball in that offense in a Mike Vrabel system?
Did he have a previous year of top production?
I was going to say, I guess that's the question
Of
there.
course.
He started hot last year when Drake May first started, but then he kind of faded off after injury. So I think the potential is there, probably less so than it was last year because they had literally no one.
He'll have a stretch where he scores a touchdown in like 3 or 4 games, and then he'll do nothing the rest of the season.
He finished tight end 12 overall last season on a.
You were tight end 13,
like you just said. He's good for like getting all of those in like 2-3 weeks, and then the rest of the year he's useless.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
he's more consistent.
But here's the thing: what's he going to cost you? Realistically, we're probably talking about around 17 round
waiver wire claim.
Yeah, like a waiver wire claim. He's going to cost you nothing, and you're going to get those weeks. I mean, he's finished he had 1 season outside of the top 20 at the position. It's obviously 12's not winning you a championship, but over 10 yards per catch last season, 2 touchdowns in a very much struggling. I mean, he didn't even have Drake May, but him and Drake May they were connecting early. So I don't know.
Diggs have anything left? Demario Douglas is pretty good. Kyle Williams looks good. And the best pass catcher on the team might be Trey Henderson. I don't see how Henry does anything at all.
I'm so excited for Henderson. That's going to be freaking awesome. I think that rest in peace from Andre. Corey and what a crew tonight. Plus Brian. Always glad to have Brian. Got Tootsie Pop. Hey friends. Let's see, and then Matthias and drop Jalen Warren for the new Ravens kicker. What a take!
Yeah,
what a take. So, Go Yachty, who a veteran for you that you think again, we're talking about. I like trying to get the deep guys. Like last year, even you look at like a Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin went in the double-digit rounds. He produced significant impact with the new quarterback. Like, who's a veteran that the you're still buying that you might get later?
Ooh, let me pivot to that. So I like Michael Pittman. He had a back injury last year, really diminished his ability on the field, and a lot lower targets. I think he had 100 last year as opposed to 140-ish the year before. I'm still in on Pittman. I think he's still the number 1 wide receiver. I know Josh Downs has kind of his up and down games, but I think if he works with Chris Hess in the offseason, he gets even 25% of the results that Josh Allen did. I think that offense could be huge. And allegedly, Danny Dimes is looking good in practice. Everyone's saying he looks smooth and efficient, but I don't know how much I trust that hype. So Pittman is actually a veteran I'm excited about.
Well, we'll go to the Colts fan himself and Brian. Brian, do you feel that? And I asked that because I just went through a rookie draft where I threw Michael Pittman on the trade block for a 2nd round pick. I was like, give me a 2nd round pick. I'll send you Michael Pittman. And I got 0 offers. I got 0 offers for a 2nd round pick. So then I even said, there was somebody I wanted late 3rd. I was like, I'll take an early 3rd for Pittman. Sure, I've got a lot of wide receiver depth. I'll take this, and still nothing. So that goes to second Goyati's take is like the value is down. He's coming at a cheap cost. Is he worth it? And do you believe in the Colts offense?
That's a loaded question there. So I guess the most dangerous thing for a fantasy football fan and NFL fan is hope. And if that did not absolutely get shattered for me last year, I am still hopeful for Anthony Richardson as a Colts fan. Absolutely, I want him to be good. You know, we spent the capital on him. He's incredibly young. There's so much potential there. But it's so hard to spend assets on these players, especially when Tyler Warren could potentially, by the end of the season, could be the number one target in that offense. Josh Downs is immensely talented. Pittman's paid as the number one. So I think those three are kind of cannibalize each other for a good part of the season. But that's the beauty of it. Nobody wants Michael Pittman. I luckily got to trade him off this past year in Dynasty. As soon as A-Rich got benched and Flacco went in, I traded him, and I was able to get a decent value for him. After that, it was shot. So I think that's going to be where Pittman has value, is because you're going to get him so late. If you're getting him closer to double-digit rounds somewhere there in redraft, I think it's going to work out for you. He'll be a nice, viable piece. You can flex him in there from week to week, but God, as a Colts fan, man, I hope it happens, but I am not setting myself up for failure.
Yeah, see, I'm out on Pittman just for a couple of reasons. For one, if the thing that Richardson does best as a passer, if you can call it best as a passer, is that he can throw it from Indianapolis to Evansville, right? He can chuck the thing as far as anybody wants him to. And that lines up perfectly with Adonai Mitchell's skill set. A.D. Mitchell was an elite separator last season. Go ahead and check the stats on it. Check the StatCast on it. He was an elite separator. It's just that Richardson can never hit him. He can never find him. He just throw it as far as he can, or throw it somewhere down there, and then expect Mitchell to have to run around the acreage and find it. Daniel Jones is an actual NFL caliber passer. He is not a great quarterback, but he is an actual NFL caliber passer, right? He can complete at least 63% of his passes, at least. Okay. But the problem is, if Daniel Jones wins your starting quarterback position, he's going to throw short. He's going to dink and dunk. And that means that Tyler Warren and that means Josh Downs are the two who are going to be getting the passes. So you've either got Daniel Jones playing and throwing it to Downs and Warren, or you've got Richardson shucking it as far as he can and hoping A.D. Mitchell comes and gets it. And that leaves Pittman as kind of the odd man out. And so, for those couple of reasons, I'm going to be way lower on Pittman, I think, than some of us are.
So let me ask you this, Aaron, and I know you're about to speak there, so maybe you can kind of pitch your point and highlight this. If you are buying Pittman, like if you're one of those and you're like, you know what, people are so low on him, I'm going to take him just so I can get some depth on my roster and take a shot. What are you willing to pay? Or are you at all?
Whatever the fine for the ticket I have after the DUI. Since I've clearly been drinking. If I'm buying Pittman, I've been drinking and I need to pay the ticket. That wasn't what I was jumping in on. Actually, I was going to jump in and say that I thought Anthony Richardson's best skill is that he wasn't Daniel Jones. So I'm way out on the Colts. I don't see eye to eye at all.
Which is okay. So let me ask you this. You have the last pick in the draft. You've got in your rookie draft, you've got 412, and somebody says they'll give you Pittman for 412. You still wouldn't do it.
One sec. Who do I have at 412 on my board?
Oh, come on. Nothing after a second round pick is even real.
Okay. 412, by your logic earlier, the 412 in the draft I had earlier today was Will Howard. Super flex. Do you want Will Howard or do you want Michael Pittman?
Michael Pittman.
No, Will
What are we
Howard.
doing here?
Super
Probably
flex.
Pittman, but it's probably Pittman. I don't know.
No, Joe.
Come on, man.
No, no.
I'm not going to go that far. No. Yeah,
Any-
I would take Pittman for the 412. Yeah. I
Any
would throw the
quarterback,
412 at someone for Pittman. Yeah.
any quarterback that has a shot at starting possibilities is worth more than the 412. Like Will Howard at 412 to me is in a super flex league where you have to play two quarterbacks. Unless this is like an 8-team league, that doesn't make any sense. If it's
So
a
what
12,
you're saying is you'd rather have the 412 than Pittman?
I would rather have Will Howard than Pittman, but Will Howard ain't made it
Have
to
the
the
412 than
412.
Pittman.
And
Just say it already.
No. I will take talent over that situation for Will Howard. I'll take Michael Pittman's talent as a receiver and trust that at some point over the time of period of time that I have him on my roster, they're going to find someone to throw him the football. I will bet on Michael Pittman's talent over Will Howard.
Tyler,
all day long.
Gun to your head. Michael Pittman, Treylon Burks.
Oh my God! Really?
Again, this is not even a question. What are we doing here?
Look, I'm biased. I think he's got it. He just hadn't been on the field. But that's me. I'm one of those. When I took Treylon Burks, I was like, this guy's gonna die on my roster. Like if he doesn't do it, that's okay. I'm gonna take my mistake. I'm gonna live with it, and I'm gonna roll. But
Tyler, we're gonna have to you pee in a cup after this.
That's okay. I'll do it. But here's the thing. Okay. So hear me out here. We can't. There is a such thing as late bloomers. Okay, and I'm not talking about anything off cuff or anything, but you look at Tyler Lockett, right? Like let's look at Tyler Lockett's stats. Tyler Lockett,
your 10 breakout.
You don't want to hear my take on it. Yeah, no.
Tyler Lockett finished wide receiver 40, 62, and 54 his first 3 seasons. Like completely off the radar. Never had more than 500 yards. Now I know Treylon's stats are much different than that, but Treylon didn't play any full seasons. He had a total, like his sophomore and junior season in the NFL, he had a total of 3 touchdowns total. Then he goes on for the next 5 years, his year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, and year 8, and never finishes outside of the top 15 at the position.
You know how we got his opportunity and stayed on the roster, though? Special teams. He was a returner. That's how we got into the lineup. Burks doesn't do that.
Yeah, he had 800, 600, and 900 yards his first 3 years in returning. So, yeah, there was a lot of work in that.
The other thing about Tyler Lockett, we talked about it earlier, kind of when we were talking about tight ends, is that he'll get all of his points. I used to hate drafting Tyler Lockett because you knew that he was going to go off for like 30 plus points 2 or 3 times every season. And the rest of the year, he was going to have like 3 catches for 32 yards. That's just how he gained all of his points, especially earlier, like when he first became a starter. And I didn't want to have to always gamble on that. He was always a better best ball target for me than he was like a redraft target, because you never knew when was the right time to start him. And the minute that you sat him, he'd go off for literally a 30 plus point game. So, I mean, I don't think Treylon Burks has 30 total points in fantasy in him, let alone 30 points a game.
It's okay. We'll live with it.
Him too, dude. I hate myself for it now.
we move on. This trio of receivers it's really testing my ability to not drop any swear words here. Can we move on? I had a running back to talk about if you want it.
Look. Okay. Well, I will digress. We will see, but for those, and this is where fantasy's fun, right? Like it's so fun because you do follow the stats and you do follow the player projections. You also you have players you like, I have CD Lamb on a ton of my leagues. I like CD Lamb. I like the player. He's like Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's old. And people are like, are you trading him off yet? No, I've got his jersey on my wall. I've got his rookie card autographed right beside it. It's fantasy. I'm going to ride with my guys, and that's cool. It's fun. I can still win championships that way, but it's, I wouldn't. So for Treylon, sure. Will he ever pan out? Probably not. I knew that going in from one of his coaches that I had talked to, said he didn't know how to work hard. Sure. He was always just the best, period. But that doesn't pan out in the NFL. And we'll see that this year. There's going to be players that are coming into the draft this year that we think are going to be automatics. We see it all the time. You've seen it with N'Keal Harry, right? Like everybody's like, oh, man, N'Keal Harry's going to be awesome. Boo-boo, right? And it's like you're going to have those players. So I'll flip that to you, Aaron, with all your infinite wisdom here. Who is that guy this season? Who is the guy that everybody's hype on that is gonna be a dud that everybody just needs to stay away from?
We talking entirely or at draft cost?
I would say at draft cost, but also kind of entirely, but at draft cost mainly.
Ashton Genty. I said it. There's no chance. We did this with Bijan as a rookie. We always say, oh, he's got nothing. Yeah, well, Tyler Algier was nothing, and it still didn't return wherever he was, RB4 value in his rookie season. It's going to happen with Genty. Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. He's not going to return RB4 value, which is what he's going at now.
So I'm going to hit this quick question in the chat. Ashton Springer said for a 2-team Orphans Dynasty dispersal draft, snake or linear?
Snake.
Yeah, snake. I typically only go linear in rookie drafts only. Any kind of startup, you're gonna go snake.
If it's 2 teams only,
I think 2 teams are leaving. They're probably dropping.
Teams. Oh, yeah. Is everybody
It sounds like they're probably dropping from 12 to 10 or 10 to 8.
So if it's like an expansion draft, right? So like let's say 2 teams leave, they exit, and you basically take their entire rosters, you open them up for draft.
Yeah, no, I know what a dispersal draft is, but if it's
no, for me, I'm saying that may shift it. Like if I'm a commissioner and I look at the league and I feel like the league is very lopsided.
Yeah.
If the league is very lopsided and there's some teams that really need help, I might go linear.
You're way nicer than me. There's no way I'm going to do that for people. I hate doing waivers by like standings for that reason. It's like, I don't play this to like have everybody be close to winning. I play to dominate people. There's no way that I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, but that dynasty leagues, if they get 2 offsuit, which they do because people like to trade, and then you end up with 6 teams that are straight garbage, and you end up with 3, teams that actually compete each season. And so then you're constantly, recirculating new orphan owners and everything like that. They're trying to build a roster, and eventually the league dies, right? Like dynasty leagues that last more than like 3 to 4 years are not common. And so, like, that's my only debate with that, because I'm the same. I'm like, hey, I made good trades. I built my roster. My team's a baller. Sure, yeah, tough. I'm sorry. And if this person's, if this person has 10 starters that are hidden, I want to make sure I get one of them. And I want to, if I can get 112 and 2-1, I want them, right? And so, but it's not going to keep the league moving.
Hey, Ty, you mentioned a name a couple minutes ago, N'Keal Harry. You would agree, big bust, probably worst draft pick of all time?
Don't go there. We already left that.
Well, more career touchdowns than Treylon Burks. I'd just like to point that out.
Well, sure.
Just saying.
So Mathiasen says every Bears player, and I forget what this question was comparing to. Oh, the bust. Who was going to be a bust? So Mathiasen said every Bears player. What about the Bears? The Bears came into this draft, and Goyati, I see you squinting your eyes, so maybe you've got a little bit to hit on this. But I know the Bears came into this draft, and they addressed offense like crazy. I mean, they went and they got their tight end, they invested in receiver, like they said we're building our offense. Are you with it? Every Bears player is a bust, or do you like what the franchise is doing with this team?
I think maybe 5 out of 6, that's correct. But I'm excited about DeAndre Swift. I think before Pittman popped in my head, that might have been my answer beforehand. No direct replacement. I'm not afraid of Roschon Johnson. I think, just the faith that was showed coming out of the draft is super exciting. I know he's rocketing up the best ball boards, probably 2-3 rounds at this point. So I'm glad that I, took some chances on him. Curious about what you guys think. And also, Luther Burton, I think there's a chance he could overtake Odunze as the second target getter. I see some no's there, but I think he's a talented guy. So yeah, give it to me. Let's see what you got.
No, I mean Joe was immediately like, "Oh, Joe, you must have drafted a lot of Odunze."
No, I actually don't have any shares of him. I just appreciate what he is as a player. He was dynamite at Washington last year. I think from like what you wanted to see from a rookie, his expectations where he went in the draft, first round pick, think a lot of people were expecting what they got from Malik Neighbors, what they got from Brian Thomas Jr. We didn't see that from Marv Harrison. We didn't see that from Odunze. There was a lot of work that needs to be done on that offense, particularly with the offensive line. They lost Keenan Allen. I would be a lot more worried about DJ Moore. I think that Luther Burden has a much more repeatable role and can overtake that. Odunze I see as the route runner that's going to be out on the outside that isn't going to be impacted at all. But I think Rome, he's probably being too hyped right now, but I do think he's going to be in much better shape than he was last year.
Burton and Moore are the two that Burton and Moore, they occupy the same niche. Their skill sets are the ones that overlap. Odunze and Burton are not the two that overlap in terms of the skill set that they bring to the table. I love what the Bears have done building it. You mentioned the offensive line. So they went out and they signed a bunch of veteran, good offensive linemen. They addressed their offensive line. Ben Johnson is there now. I loved the Luther Burden signing or drafting, but yeah, they're doing it right. I don't think the Bears are going to be busts at all this year. I think that they're going to be a fun team to watch. I think and it pains me to say it as a Packer fan. I really think that they're doing it right. I'll withhold judgment because it is the Bears and they always seem to find a way to bear it up, but they really have done a good job this offseason of addressing the needs of that team and giving Caleb Williams everything he needs to absolutely skyrocket.
If anything, they might fall into something like the Packers. The Packers, we didn't have a single wide receiver over 22% target share. That's a huge possibility we could see with the Bears, with two capable tight end pass catchers, two running backs that are capable of pass catchers, plus these three receivers. This might just be wheels up for Caleb Williams. He might be the only slam dunk within this, this offense.
We'll see. That's the great thing about the draft is it shifts the momentum. And right now, I don't know if you're doing best ball drafts or what you're doing, but it's a complete, we'll see. Right. And we always have our projections, but this is where you can land players that, maybe other people aren't tabbed onto yet. Obviously we're in the middle of dynasty draft season, which is a blast. But here we're closing out. We're hitting the 10 o'clock hour. Just real quick before we sign off, if you guys would, Chase, we'll go clockwise. Just let the audience know who you are, where they can find your content, and follow your stuff.
Like it says on the screen, STT Chase FFB. You can find me on all the socials there, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You can find me there. I'm doing fantasy baseball, fantasy football, even talking a little bit of fantasy WNBA if you want to. So find me there, STT Chase FFB, all one word.
There you go. So I'll keep it simple. So at JOEFRK on pretty much everything but Reddit. You can find me at Joey Hustle. And also Sandman's taking it home with the Kentucky Derby tomorrow. You heard it here first.
You can also find Joe in the back of Foot Locker. That's where he's recording tonight. Yeah, it's as you probably picked up, it's Too Much Brian at @too_much_Brian on X, at Too Much Brian everywhere else, and it's here. It's the Fantasy Football Network. It's Too Much Fantasy Football where you're gonna find me rocking and rolling.
Aaron?
At FF Mad Scientist, I think, Joe, the thing you said today that I agree with most is everywhere but Reddit. I fully endorse that. Anywhere but Reddit. I can't stand Reddit. It's the absolute worst.
Well, now everybody, it was supposed to be something anonymous, and now everybody just puts their picture and their first and last name on there. I can't even give up my old handle. It's just
play all this go yachty. You can find me on X at FF Knowledge spelled NOLLIJ, and just follow along. I'll hope to be back.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for tuning in. And enjoying the show. Appreciate you. If you have tuned in, this is your first time, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe. As Rusty said, heck of a crew here tonight. It was a great crew. We are here every Friday night. For those of you on the radio station that are listening for the first time, every Friday, 9 o'clock Central Time from the forum, here to answer your fantasy football questions. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. We're out.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to fantasysportsadvice.com today.